chapter 2, text 25, 27. Om Namo. Which one? Thanks for telling me that. I only thought it. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chaiva Narottamam Yasam Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Jam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishti. Let's say this together. Before reciting the Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer unto the personality Narayan, unto Mother Saraswati, Goddess, unto Sri Vasudev, the author, and to the Prabhupada, the translator, and commentator. Have the comments, I would understand what the Bhagavatam was. By regular attendance at the Bhagavatam and by service, all the souls of our Bhagavatam and loving service unto the praise and establishes a workable fact. So, okay, let's do 25. Can we just chant the Sanskrit together? Vasudevasya Devakyam together. Vasudevasya Devakyam Jato Purvendra Chikishu Bhagavan Asya The personality of Godhead Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki in the prison of the king of Vraja. Who's speaking? No. Yes, but no. Who's speaking? What's the conversation going on? Vidura and Uddhava. Correct. So it's Vidura speaking. No, Uddhava speaking. Sorry, Uddhava speaking. Vidura approached Uddhava on his travels, and actually just kind of ran into. They crossed paths, and so Vidura is inquiring from him. And when as soon as remember the beginning of the conversation, what happened when Vidura first started to talk to Uddhava? What was Uddhava's first reaction when Vidura started to ask him about Krishna? So it was like yours. He was so overwhelmed, he couldn't respond right away. So there, that was the right answer. He couldn't respond right away. He was so overwhelmed with thoughts of separation from him. But I won't go into that. When we start the class, so okay. Oh, that's what it is. I better get going then. Okay. So he began. He's already spoken a little bit about Krishna's pastimes, a little bit, these verses, but it was quite random. Here, there. Now, starting with this verse, 25th verse, he gets a little more systematic. Now he's talking about Krishna. Let's go to the next one, 26. The Sanskrit. Tato Nanda Rajamita Kamsa Dipakaya Ekadasya Samastatra Alovasan. Translation. However, one person better. Take your mic.
Thereafter, his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of HH Nanda. There he lived for 11 years like a covered flame with his elder brother Baladev.
You have to remember that phrase, covered flame. This is the verse we're going to concentrate on. We're going to come back to it. Let's just now, I'm sorry, I'm two courses. We're just going to the all done. All right. And I'll read this one and then you can go down. This is verse 27. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves, and thus he traveled on the shore of the Jamuna River through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds. 28.
When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh, just like a child, and while so doing, he would appear like a lion cub.
29.
While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys.
30.
The great wizards, who were able to assume any form, were engaged by the king of Boja, Kamsa, to kill Krishna. But in the course of his pastimes, the Lord killed them as easily as a child breaks dolls.
How were the great wizards able to change forms of foods? Who's saying that? See what the voices are. Okay. Thanks.
It's just a guess, but I'm wondering if they had accumulated some mystic yogic powers.
Yes, they did. You're actually right. And they didn't just accumulate it, they had to perform austerity to get to that level of qualification. All of these things are possible by manipulating your energy. Srila Prabhupada explains in Nectar of Devotion when he talks about the levels, 3 types of happiness, material happiness, transcendental happiness. Says that the yogis, they can perform these austerities and accumulate a lot of material happiness by exhibiting this type of change forms. Just okay. 31.
The inhabitants of Vrindavana were perplexed by great difficulties because a certain portion of the Yamuna was poisoned by the chief of the reptiles, Kalia. The Lord chastised the snake king within the water and drove him away. And after coming out of the river, he caused the cows to drink the water and proved that the water was again in its natural state.
32.
The Supreme Lord Krishna
desired to utilize the opulent financial strength of Maharaj Nanda for worship of the cows, and also he wanted to give a lesson to Indra, king of heaven. Thus, he advised his father to perform worship of go, or the pasturing lands and cows, with the help of the learned Brahmanas.
33.
O sober Vidura, King Indra, his honor having been insulted, poured water incessantly on Vrindavan, and thus the inhabitants of Vraj, the land of cows, were greatly distressed. But the compassionate Lord Krishna saved them from danger with his pastime umbrella over them.
What a nice phrase, huh? This pastime umbrella over downhill. And 34.
In the third season of the year, the Lord enjoyed as the central beauty of the assembly of women by attracting them with his pleasing songs in autumn night, brightened by moonshine.
35 we go to, or 34? Okay, thanks. So let's go back to 26, which is what we're supposed to focus on. And I just need to say, Om Agina Timirandasya, Amina Salakaya Chaksu, Amjena Tatvaj. Born in the darkness, that's of course opened my eyes. knowledge. Therefore, fully indebted to Prabhupada and certified by his body. So this is text 26, verse 26 again. I'll just read. Thereafter his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda. There he lived for 11 years like a covered plain, his elder brother Baladev. So what does that phrase mean to you? A covered plain. What is that? How can we compare that to what Krishna manifests? What's going on? Yes, dear. With respects to the people in the kitchen, we have to have that be a class. Okay.
I might be wrong, but maybe like a dimmed like version of him, because when a flame is covered, it's less.
Okay. That's true, as opposed to like a blazing forest fire. Okay. Good point. All right. Any other you'd like to add?
He's not manifesting abroad all of his pastimes because he's hidden away
Right.
from Kamsa and company.
Right. But the flame has potency. It has the potency. It's just being hidden from Kamsa because Kamsa can't see it. Okay, we'll go on with the purport. There was no necessity of the Lord's being dispatched to the house of Nanda Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa's determination to kill him as soon as he appeared. Why?
Break him like a doll.
Because he's the Supreme Lord. And like a covered flame, he appeared like a little baby who looks like what? A helpless little lump. Helpless. You don't feed it, if you don't change him, if you don't this, if you don't take care of him, the baby is totally dependent. So that's what he looked like to if you say external vision. But he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as go through his pastimes, even at his young age, who was the first person that he took care of? He was in this very small form. Utana came while Krishna was less than 3 months old, I think. He was still a very small little baby. And when she wanted to offer him her breast milk, okay, no problem. I'll just suck them out. Do other things like there. Who can do that except a covered flame? So here's one of the points of this series of verses. We're getting a little glimpse of the personality of Krishna, his reciprocation, and what are we getting a glimpse of? The loving reciprocation. That's the important feature here. How the Lord lovingly reciprocates with those who love him. And how he hides himself from those who don't want to see him, don't want to acknowledge his potency. So there's always that clash. There's always that difference. Those who want to see God can see God. And those who want to declare that there is no God, that everything happens by chance, and this and that, the Lord, very kindly gives them the intelligence and the arguments to prove an atheistic point of view. It's amazing. When you think of it like that, it's amazing how Krishna. So, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, here we are. We're in the 3rd canto. So, the flow of the Bhagavatam, we first come in contact with Krishna in the storyline of the Bhagavatam. It's right after Battle of Kurukshetra, where he was what? Acting as the charioteer of his devotee Arjuna. Now that's like being an Uber driver. Not like, the most exalted position in the world or the most exalted personality. But why is he doing that? Out of love for his devotees. And he never, ever lets his devotees down. Ever. Never, it's always protecting the devotees. Now, perhaps, I am going to read the book. Perhaps the mind is going to say, yeah, but so many people suffered. The Pandavas suffered so much. Draupadi suffered so much. This, that all happened. So it's not that they didn't suffer. It's true. It's not that they didn't have difficulties in their life, but they didn't suffer. Like someone had no connection with the Lord but suffer. Just like son of a very wealthy personality, he might get sick at certain times. He might have a car crash. There's so many things might happen, but because he's got a wealthy father, all his problems are taken care of. So, not so similarly, but tad similarly, it's arranging for all of us exactly what we need for our spiritual progress. Exactly the association, exactly the service that we need, exactly so many things arranging. Tests, everything, training, so that we can make more and more progress and develop our love. That's the clue. Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the first verse of the first canto of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, 111. Srila Chakravarti Thakur, he gives 5 different commentaries on that verse, 5 different aspects of content. And one of them, I don't know if it's the last one of them is that Srimad Bhagavatam is only about rasa. It's only about developing our relationship with God. Everything has to do with that. So you can try to see that through whatever episode we're reading Bhagavatam. So here it's describing how Vasudeva, out of his love for Krishna, he was afraid. He loved Krishna so much, he considered him his son, so he forearms and then had to convert himself to a small little baby. He loved him so much, he was afraid. Kamsa had already killed 6 of his brothers previously by smashing them on the rock. That's pretty, yeah, Hare Krishna. That's pretty shocking, right? Smashing them right in front of him and mother. Anyway, so and so now the child is born that's predicted to kill Kamsa, and so Vasudeva is afraid. Let me hide him so that he can, save. That's out of love. That's called the blindness, blinded by love, and why is there no necessity for him to be fearful? Because as this Lord is full of all hopes. Flash. Okay, going on for the second sentence. It's the business of the Asuras to try to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or prove by all means that there is no God, or that Krishna is an ordinary human being and not God. Lord Krishna is not affected by such determination of men of Kamsa's class. But in order to play the role of a child, he agreed, carried by his father to the cow pasture of Nanda Maharaj, because Vasudeva was afraid of Kamsa. Remember one incident that happened while Vasudeva was carrying Krishna over to Nanda Maharaj's house that even put Vasudeva in more anxiety? Say that again? Yeah, I can never, your voice just comes from nowhere. Sorry.
I believe that it started to storm.
Started a storm, and then what happened? You're right.
It flooded.
It flooded, and then what happened?
The water parted and it would have passed through safely.
You're getting close. Now you're really at the point. So what happened when he was crossing the Jamuna? Krishna fell out of the basket. Sorry, I couldn't contain myself. He fell out of the basket. Do you believe? I mean, can you imagine? There he is. He's so much, he's trying to protect his son. He's carrying him in the basket. There's a storm, there's this and that. So many things are happening. And Krishna tipped over out of the basket. Imagine what that would be like. Shock. So he's trying to get him out of it. So why did Krishna do that? To increase Vasudeva, to increase his love. And that's what Krishna's looking for. He's looking for our love. He's hungry for it, looking for our love. In fact, he says, I'm not even hungry for all the food that you eat, but if you offer it with love, then that makes me hungry. You know? So remember that. It's not the puris, it's the love behind the puris or the tacos or whatever. You know, it's the love that's there. And if it isn't at our stage, if it isn't pure love of Krishna, it can be gratitude that will lead to all those gratitude for all this kindness in the hard times. Okay. Nanda Maharaj was due to receive him as his child, and Yasoda Mai was also to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, to fulfill everyone's desire, he was carried from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his appearance in the prison house of Kamsa. He lived there for 11 years and completed all his fascinating pastimes of childhood, boyhood, and adolescence with his elder brother, Lord Baladev, his first expansion. Vasudev's thought of protecting Krishna from the wrath of Kamsa is part of the transcendental relationship. And this is the whole point, that transcendental relationship, establishing our personal relationship with the Lord, that's also a very important point of the Bhagavatam. The Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son, needs the protection of a father, than he does when someone accepts him as the Lord. So what's the difference in the relationship there spoken about? Someone's accepting Krishna as a Supreme Lord, they have a certain relationship. And when someone's accepting Krishna as their son, they have a different relationship. Want to expand on that a little bit? Anybody? Your vastly learned understanding? Yes, dear. Let's go over here. Sharing.
I was gonna say that like if someone were to think of Krishna as their son, then they would think that like they need to like care for him and nurture him as he's like growing and his spiritual progress. And then if someone were to be my sister Lord, then they would kind of like the opposite, but like split him for.
Yes, okay. Anyone else want to expand on that? Would you like to expand on that, Prabhu? Thank you.
There's a story near the end of the 10th canto where they're at Kurukshetra for the eclipse. Vasudeva and Devaki are there, and they're treating Krishna and Balaram like the supreme lords, their lordships. And the gist of it is that Krishna is not, they want to like hop onto their lap and have their head smelled and stroked and, you know, be treated like sons. So they weren't as satisfied as they would have been if they had treated in that way. And it's this whole point brought out there. I think of in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Lila, how a verse is quoted that Krishna says, when my beloved chastises me in a sulky mood, this steals my heart away from the flowery words of the Vedas. He really wants those deeper type of rasas rather than on reverence. It's not so attractive to him.
Right. Thank you. So that mood of awe and reverence. He's the Supreme Lord. He's fill everyone's desire. Therefore, my desire. I would translate. But whatever. There's that. Like you said, the awe and reverence, or like he's the order supplier. That's the word I was trying to. He's the order supplier. Please click on it. Get all your desires come like the next day. But that's that's a step up. It's better than animal life, and it's not any acknowledgement. Would you like to add something? Is that what you're indicating? Get a microphone.
worshiping someone as superior. We only think of them when we need some.
Yeah.
And then when they're dependent and constant.
Exactly.
So Krishna wants to be
Yes.
constant.
Thanks for that. Okay, but now I'll come back to that button. Okay, the Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son who needs the protection of a father than he does when someone accepts him as his Lord. He is the father of everyone, he protects everyone, but when his devotee takes it for granted that the Lord is to be protected by the devotee's care, it is transcendental joy to the Lord. Exactly what you're saying. Thus, when Vasudeva, out of fear of Kamsa, carried him to Vrindavan, the Lord enjoyed it. Otherwise, he had no fear from Kamsa or anyone else, no matter what supposed power and fight and influence they might have had. He has no fear because he is what? The Supreme Lord. There's no one equal to him. No one can surpass him. No one can. He's the source of everything. So that understanding of the Lord and his qualities and his loving care for his devotees is very important to cultivate and understand. Very, very important. But it's also very, very important to put it in perspective. Because how does one get to that level of great devotees? It doesn't happen by just immediately on our beginning level, assuming that we have that relationship or that friendship and whatever, casual way. Therefore, we have our whole process of sadhana, how to train the mind, how to control the senses, blah, 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 so many, so that the mind can become free from misconceptions and also can become open to seeing the Lord in all everything that happens, what's present. So right now, in this section of the Bhagavatam, we're getting a little window, just a small window. This is just a small little chapter here of the intimate pastimes of the Lord that we will probably not hear any other intimate pastimes like this until we get up to the 10th canto. That's a long haul, third canto. So soon we're going to start the chapters on, the process of creation and how the time develops from the atom, and how everything, how the conditions manifest the world, and very many subjects that are like hard to comprehend and not as attractive as these. Like here we're hearing about Krishna's pastimes, and we're thinking, yeah, he's so sweet. Yeah, I want to hear more about those things. But unless we understand his potency, here he's manifesting himself as the Supreme Lord, but in a covered way. And unless we understand his potency, then when we get to these pastimes, it's very easy and often quite misunderstood by persons who haven't gone through systematic study of the Bhagavatam. Because that systematic study of the Bhagavatam and the understanding of the Lord's potencies in creation, maintenance, and destruction of the world, and understanding all of those things, then if we're just hearing these pastimes, we're thinking, so kind of miss the point, miss the fact that he has that loving relationship with his qualified, pure devotees who love him in that similar way, but he is most powerful personality that is the source of all of those things. It's important to know both. And in fact, you'll see as you stick it out to your systematic study of the Bhagavatam, most of the Bhagavatam emphasizes the power and potency of the Lord, whereas just that. So in second canto, 10th chapter, it talks about the topics, what's included in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. Atra Sarga, Sargas, Cha, that talks about the creation by the Lord, creation by Brahma, and the creation of the planets, universes, and Sthanam, situation of the planets, Sthanam means situation of the planets, how the planets are Oceanum. You pull up 2:10, second canto, 10th chapter of first. And Uttaya is desires. Okay, go down, please. Okay. Translation. Okay, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following: the creation. That's creation of the universe indicates the elements that the Lord provides. He provides the ingredients. The subcreation is the creation of Brahma. He's got all the, Krishna provided all the ingredients, and Brahma took those ingredients and formulated into the universal system. Planetary system, protection, protection by the Lord. Thank you. The creative impetus is Uttaya, the change of manus, the rulers of mankind, the science of God, and returning home back to God and liberation, and the Samam. So Krishna, the 10th topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Samam Bonam, Krishna, that's the main topic of the Bhagavatam. And in fact, it's not Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, he explains that it's not that there's 10 topics in the Bhagavatam. No, there's only one topic. That is Krishna. But the other 9 topics give us information about 10th topic, the Samam Bonam. And therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is only about Krishna and his relationship with the entities. But he does it in so many ways. But over and over again, he's stressing his potencies too. Because if we don't understand his potencies, then very easy we can dismiss or miss, which is like dismissing or missing that relationship. That's a very important point for the Bhagavatam. And therefore we hear over and over again process of creation. You're about to start on that. You did already cover it a little bit in the second canto, a little bit of creation, got a little taste of it. Third canto is going to do it 2 more times, the whole process of creation again. Thanks. It's beyond water, but thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so some little thoughts or questions or comments or reflections, some people say, on what we've talked about so far.
So having a rasa on reverence to Krishna and like requesting things is not the highest rasa. But I thought Prabhupada said something like chant, you should be like asking for service. So can you touch on that one?
It's 2 different kinds of asks. When when a person, and okay, let me just say this even before that. It's actually good to ask the Lord for things. In that sense, acknowledging the Lord's potent position and that things come from him. So that's progress. So Prabhupada would often acknowledge that. People who go to the Lord for material desires, that's very good. At least they're acknowledging that everything comes from the Lord. So that's good. Okay? But to fulfill material desires, to get one situated in the material world, it's not for the ultimate benefit of the person, because that body that they're in is going to change, the situation is going to change, etc., etc. Even if they get raised to the heavenly planet and live a life that's, hundreds and thousands of times longer than our life here in this little earth, it's still temporary. They ultimately have to come down, start again, go back up. So that's okay. That's one aspect of it. But then for a devotee who's chanting and asking the Lord for service, that's a whole different quality. It's a whole different quality of ask. It's a whole different reaction of response from the Lord. So asking the Lord for service and receiving some service from him, his representatives, that's for our eternal benefit. Second chapter, Bhagavad Gita says, any little bit of service rendered is for your eternal benefit, and it's never lost, even at the end of this life. It's an eternal bank account. Whereas any other material endeavor that we get, or material wealth that we accumulate, or anything that we accumulate, it's totally lost. Even education, it's totally lost at the time of death. And all you take with you is the reaction from your activities, good or bad. Josh, you should time. Offered with love. So asking the Lord for service will have a certain result, and that result is he'll certainly give you more service, and you'll be able to ask for more service. It'll increase. Whereas asking the Lord for $1 million or whatever, a good wife, a good husband, a good job, or whatever, cure my disease, whatever, that benefit would be very temporary, and the activities that one engages in that situation will entangle one more and more in the cycle of birth and death. Whereas the activities that one engages in by chanting Hare Krishna cuts those bondages. So it's a whole. Thanks. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, I was just thinking that Krishna tells us that one who understands his activities, his birth, and these things like this can attain him. And it's very interesting because the residents of Vrindavan, when they see him do these really amazing things, it's like, why are they so surprised? Why are they so I don't know, amazed by seeing these things? Like, to get to the point of being a resident of Vrindavan, doesn't that mean that you've already understood his pastimes and his birth and everything else, right? So yeah, I wonder if you can share about that.
That's a good point too. Also, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj once, many years ago, came to Alatra. Hasn't been there for a while, but when he was there, he was saying the conclusion of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya's knowledge and the conclusion of other sampradayas and other knowledge, like other religious or philosophies. Other religious philosophies, the conclusion is to understand that God, there's a God, Almighty person. But Gaudiya Vaishnava wants you to come to the point of understanding there's God, and then forgetting that he's God. Then you have to go beyond that. Forget that he's God. Go beyond that. Sorry. So, yes, the residents of Vrindavan had to have either ascended to the point, a process of sadhana bhakti, purified, blah, 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 up to the point where they actually realized that the Supreme Lord's a person and develop their relationship with him. Then when they're in that relationship, they have to, that's the whole point. And the whole point of Goloka Vrindavan is to forget that Krishna's God. They don't care if he's God. He could not be God. They just love him. And that's why they're always bewildered. You think he's like a demigod? How did we get this amazing boy, somebody special? That's okay. Let's not think about that. Just love him. And that keeps Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita explains this way, that love of God tinged with awe and reverence. When there's awe, when you understand there's a God, but it's tinged with awe and reverence, then the love shrinks because you're always aware he's the most prominent person. I have to act this way. I can't, so many things, proper etiquette, But when your love of God isn't tinged by any of that, when it's just Suda Sattva, not Suda Sattva, but when it's just completely pure loving the Lord, you don't care what it's got. What does Lord Chaitanya say? I don't care if you handle roughly by your embrace, or make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. You can do anything. Unconditional. That's what unconditional means. So love of God tinged with awe and reverence is, for lack of a better word at this particular moment, is conditional. Because he's the Supreme Lord, I'll act this way, I'll, on my best behavior, etc., etc. But in Goloka Vrindavan, they're climbing on Krishna's back. Oh, we just defeated you and rest. Actually, could I get your mind? When Krishna killed Kamsa, so the arena of Kamsa is there, blah, blah, blah. Nanda Maharaj is there. Vasudeva and Devaki are there. His coward boyfriends are there. Residents of Mathura are there. The ladies of Mathura are there complaining why, because previously there was a wrestling with Krishna and wrestlers. But anyway, so at the point when after he disposed of the wrestlers, and then Kamsa gets a little, he goes over the top in frustration, and he decides that Nanda Maharaj should be plundered, and Vasudeva and Devaki should be killed, and my father should be killed, and saying everybody should kill. Then Krishna jumps up on the dais and knocks Kamsa's crown off and drags him down to the ground and punches him and kills him. Then he drags him around so that everyone can see he's dead. And then, after all of that, the cowherd boys come into the arena also. And they're wrestling with Krishna, and they defeat Krishna. So you think of that whole scene, Krishna's just exhibited so much potency to kill this huge demon Kamsa with his bare hands. And then his friends, out of their love, Krishna's defeated by them when they're wrestling, joking around. It's beyond, it's beyond rules and regulations. That's the quality of the loving reciprocation they have for him and he has for them. And don't think that Krishna's loving reciprocation is only for the Bhagavatam personalities, only for Prahlad Maharaj, only for Parikshit Maharaj. He saved Parikshit, did this, did that. He has it for all of us also. It's there. It's there for all of us. Potential. We need to cultivate remembrance of that, and it's easy to upset. I say these things a lot, so I get tired. Sorry. Sometimes it's important to hear over and over again. So, I forgot what I was saying. If we cultivate a remembrance of Krishna, then we'll see his act, see his kind hand in our life. It's easy to say that now while we're all sitting here and we're expecting a shot in 2.5 minutes and everything's going nicely. But when there's, you lose your job, you break up a relationship, this happens, that happens, a car crash, so many innumerable ways that life can play out in ways that you weren't expecting. But you see Krishna's kind hand in your life, bringing you closer, helping you rid yourself of your material attachments, helping you, be dependent on him, then you'll understand. Because you've cultivated it all along. Just like Kunti, who can imagine somebody praying for calamities? Like, it's hard, but what is she saying? It's not that she wants the calamity per se, but she wants the intensity of that remembrance of Krishna. That's what her relationship was. That when they were, when they tried to kill him in the house of black, when they tried to poison her son, when this happened and that son happened, so many things. She's dependent. She's remembering Krishna with such intensity that you can't break that. and you'll see and experience in your life when those difficulties come in your life. You remember, by proper execution of all the basics of bhakti, then you'll turn to Krishna automatically and pray to him for help. Especially more when the situation is so the extremes are so strong there. Like when the thing might seem like it's such a disaster, that when it's such a disaster, and not just a physical disaster, but even like, say, when there's a challenge to your reputation, or something like that, where it's very subtle, but it's very deep. The identification as to who we are is very deep. Why is that person insulted? Why did that happen? Why did I get out of this? Or whatever. But to pray to Krishna that we have the correct attitude to make our way over the waves of disturbance of that situation. That's really important. That's really that application of that. When the tendency could be to just criticize the circumstance or criticize the people who seemingly created the circumstance or should have done something about it, but they didn't do something about it, and why, then to pray for the proper attitude, how to transcend that, and then be able to apply it, that's a real test. So pray. So here, one thing that we can learn is to offer these prayers now while things are going well, so that we can at least remember it when it happened, when challenges come our way. Because life has a way of throwing challenges at us that don't expect that particular circumstance. Any other thoughts or comments or anything? Because getting to that wonderful time of day. Yes, please.
Yes, I wanted to ask briefly if you can comment on what happens to one who tries to hop over the process of learning that Krishna is God and he's the controller and so forth, and you're not. Someone tries to hop over that process and tries to enter into the deeper rasas without having gone through the process of restoring their understanding of who he is.
Thank you. That's a good question, and it's a good thing to try to understand the difficulties of that. That means that it's just like, let's just say this, but let's use this example, one that you can like grab onto. So somebody wants to be a doctor, whatever, and they don't have the money to go to school, they don't have the marks to go to school or whatever, but they'll just decide, I'll just get all the books, I'll read all the books, and I'll just be a doctor. It doesn't work that way, does it? That be closed down by the government as soon as they found out, or the people who have faith in them, or their tendency to make so many mistakes because they haven't been trained properly. So similarly, that's the scenario that you just described. Somebody hopped over, going through Bhagavatam in a systematic way, just wants to enter into the rasa. Oh, she's my lover. Oh, he's my child. Whatever. It's not a solid, there's no solid foundation there. It's like trying to build a building from the 10th floor down. I don't know, go to the first floor up. To have a foundation, all your pillars there, et cetera, and proportionate to the size of the, et cetera. So it's a science. So bhakti, the process of bhakti yoga, it's a science, and there's a scientific way to approach it. And for one who jumps over, then they won't be able to maintain that position. They will, and ultimately will commit offenses and suffer a lot from a jump. That's the gist of it. Would you like to add anything?
That's really perfect. But I was also thinking of like Prakrita Sahajas who want to just enter into the rasa and forget about the philosophy.
Right.
But they've never reestablished in their character that I came here because I wanted to be God. And they're still trying to be God by not going through the process of learning how to have awe and reverence and surrender to the Supreme Lord.
Good point. Yes, yes, totally true. Yeah. And because that mood of trying to surpass process, to say the least. So here's a little tip. So relish these pastimes that are being explained here in the next part of the chapter very well, because after this, then you'll start talking about creation again, and you'll get to hear about how from the sun came this and the earth, that, so many things. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Panchakalpa, Srila Sindhya Cha, Dan Pavan Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Adi.
I'm not sure. No, I'm not. Oh, really? Yeah. No, Did you say like I got right in through for like 20 minutes before I worked up 5 minutes. No one thinks so. I mean,